Joining us today is Dr. Zirak Marker, a renowned child, adolescent, and family psychiatrist and psychotherapist. He has almost 2 decades of clinical experience with educational psychology and guiding children with learning disabilities, development delays, autism, and emotional or psychological problems. He has authored a book, Parenting in the Age of Anxiety, which is a unique publication covering topics such as bullying, abuse, adoption, academic stress, disabilities, and death, amongst other hard-hitting parental concerns. We are honored to welcome Dr. Zirak Marker to the show. So, let's move on for our first question for today. Dr. Marker, technology and social media play a significant role in a teen's life today. In your practice, what trends and patterns have you observed regarding the impact of social media on the mental health of teenagers? Are there specific challenges that are more pronounced in the digital age?
Thank you for having me here, Arya. It's amazing that you're taking steps towards this initiative. It's so needed.
Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Sure, happy to be here. So yes, teenagers are grappling a lot with regards to social media and its impact. And I think firstly, I'd like to say that there are two aspects here. There's a lot of instant gratification and impulse discontrol. So what is happening is that teenagers are sometimes saying things and doing things without realizing what impacts and complications can have in the long run. And I think social media and the internet is leading to a lot of impulse discontrol along with instant gratification. I think no one has patience anymore to just pursue hobbies, read books, exercise, go out. So the whole world for them has become a bubble with limited resources, and at the same time a lot of impacts with stress, distress, wanting to fit in, a lot of peer pressure, which then completely unfolds into low self-confidence, low self-esteem. And then of course you have stress and you have anxiety and then you have depression that kind of snowball into aspects, and it is addictive.
Yeah.
I mean, I know teenagers today who scroll for sometimes 8, 10 to 12 hours a day. And this is in a so-called functional day. So you have school, you have college, and then you have 8, 10 hours of scrolling.
That's so relatable. It takes a lot of discipline to not continuously be addicted to your phone.
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much for enlightening us on this.
Sure.
Now, let's move on to the next question. Social media often presents as an idealized version of life and can lead to feelings of FOMO and inadequacy. What strategies do you recommend for teenagers to manage these feelings? How can teenagers develop a realistic and positive self-image?
So that's true. I mean, I think I tell all teenagers and young adults have real experiences, not virtual ones. I mean, today, when you want to wish even someone on their birthdays or anniversaries or give someone a hug, it's all virtual. Virtual messages, virtual emojis, virtual hugs. And it's so sad because I've seen so many teenagers today when they need to actually approach these things in real life and not the virtual life, they're actually socially awkward. They have difficulty with eye contact, communication, vocabulary, conversations, and a huge sense of social anxiety. So, have real experiences, actually spend less time on the virtual world and with social media, because also what starts happening is there's a lot of concept of reality that gets warped. So the reality is based on social media. It's all the time preoccupation with what others are doing, with what others are achieving, with what others are celebrating, right? So it takes so much away from you that teenagers actually come back and tell me that they don't know who they are anymore. So interpersonal skills, and I tell all teenagers that's one aspect, but what about the intrapersonal skills, right? Which is looking within. How do you love yourself? How do you believe in yourself? How do you kind of have tools or work on ways to increase your own self-confidence, your own self-image, your own self-worth? So those are aspects and conversations now that we sometimes have with teenagers with regards to this.
Thank you so much. And now we move on to our next question for today. Teenagers are constantly on social media. Are there any signs to indicate overconsumption? When does it become too much?
So that's happening more and more. We call it, burnout. And literally what you would find with adults who burn out with stress and with work is what signs and symptoms we're finding even with teenagers. So there are a lot of, there's lethargic overconsumption, as we call it, where you're sitting sometimes on the bed or in a room for hours together, actually bored, and even getting bored as to what you're scrolling because it's so random now with no agenda. There are a lot of postural issues, so a lot of backaches, neck aches, dry eye syndrome. So a lot of pediatric ophthalmologists are complaining that, because of overconsumption of the internet and the phone, a lot of dry eyes, vision issues, blurring of vision at times sporadically that come and go, a lot of headaches naturally. And then when you get back to the real world, like say for students, it's getting back to studies and getting back to homework and submissions, a lot of issues with attention, concentration, focus, getting highly distracted. And then even when you get back there, there are slots of time where teenagers tell me they need to get back to their phone to see if there was a response or a reply to a certain post that they put up or a certain status that they've uploaded. So all that leads to a lot of, also they don't realize how the stress and anxiety builds up. So there is a lot of irritability, distraction, distress, because I know a lot of teenagers tell me that they've say put up something on Instagram and they've not got the appropriate likes that they've wanted or the number that they've kind of sought for, and it leads to a sudden dip in mood, or they feel low, or they feel not confident again. So it's a vicious cycle. So these are the kind of aspects of overconsumption with the internet and social media.
I agree. Thank you so much. And now let's move on for the next question for today. Cyberbullying is real. What strategies and coping mechanisms do you recommend for dealing with such situations?
So I don't look at cyberbullying as just cyberbullying anymore. When you're talking to children now as young as even 9 and 10 who are victims to cyberbullying, I think it's across now all age groups. So what we're trying to not just teach but create awareness is about basic facts. One is, when you put something there on the internet, it stays for life, right? We always tell kids there's something called like an iCloud. So whether it's
digital footprint,
it's everything, yes.
Yeah.
And it could be a message that you've sent or deleted. It could be a thumbs up that you've put for a horrible comment against another child. It could be a statement, anything. It could be even something fake. I mean, right? It happens, you put up fake accounts of someone else and you troll them or you write horrible things against them. So one is, you have to realize it never goes away. So when you look at cybercrime units today, they are highly, highly professional. They have ways and means to collect that information. Secondly, now, as per the POCSO Act and Cybercrime Acts, there are consequences that children and teenagers can face in case there are aspects of cyberbullying and things like that. Third is, you have to realize, or everyone has to realize, that if a child or a teenager is vulnerable, or I always tell kids, you never know when you say passed a horrible comment, you've body shamed a child or another teenager or a peer, or you said something terrible about their photograph or their image or anything. How do you know what the background story is? Right? I mean, a child or a teenager could be having horrible issues at home, could be having body image issues, could be going through depression and anxiety, could be having the parents back home fighting or going through a divorce or financial issues or anything else, right? It's that tipping point. So are you ever going to be responsible for another child wanting to experience suicidal ideations or even sometimes take steps to take their life, right? Would you ever want to go through that in your life? And the answer is no, right? I mean, imagine feeling responsible for another person in your life who wants to take their life because of what you've said on social media or otherwise. So again, mindfulness in knowing the digital printing, the legal aspects and the consequences to another child's mental health or life. And I think sharing, I think support groups, like I know you and me discussed that, you know, when you talk about, say, bullying, and you share about your experience, when you make it more relatable, it helps the opposite person to open up and share more. You know?
And not feel so alone.
And not feel alone or not feel that something's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And makes them feel that there's a safe space and a non-judgmental space where they can relate and talk and share.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing this up today. Given the constant connectivity of today's youth, how can parents and educators play a role in supporting teenagers to manage stress related to social media?
So I think in this there are three stakeholders. You can't only put the onus on the child or the students or the schools. It has to be parents. I think parents play a large role. Student body is the second stakeholder, and schools. Starting with schools, carrying forward to what you and me were discussing, I think it is so important. Actually, it is something we've already started as a project of ours. It's a school mental health curriculum, right? So talking about the hard stuff, why shy away? I think it's absolutely okay for one less history and geography chapter and one less math class in school, but once a week from grades 1 to grades 12, if all schools can have the educators, teachers, or even the psychologists of a school with a set curriculum that we've actually created called Minds Matter, incorporate it. So then what you're doing is not only are you normalizing conversations like this and topics like this, but you're giving awareness, you're giving cognizance, you're bringing up awareness, and then you're allowing that safe space. So it's literally like you're bringing the counselor of a school into the classrooms. You're bringing mental health and all this awareness into the classrooms, into the curriculum, and it's regular. So it's not like just one-off talk, you know, because we have that. We have like an expert speaker coming in, giving a 1 hour talk, everyone's giggling, laughing, and it's done. So this is a carry forward, and this helps with age appropriateness, because now what I would tell a 9 or 11-year-old will be very different from a 16 or a 17-year-old, right? So, but it's at the same time, both the 9-year-old and the 16-year-old have the knowledge and the bandwidth.
Get the message.
Absolutely, and it's kind of then consciously and subconsciously ingrained as the do's and the don'ts, the safeties, the protocols, all of that. So schools, I feel, play a very large role in this, because sometimes, see, families and families are of diverse needs. Parents are diverse. I know many parents are even, say, uncomfortable talking about even death, or they will feel, okay, we don't want to talk about sexual abuse, or we don't want to talk about the LGBTQI. So I know that discomfort is there across a lot of families and parents. So the school, I think, plays role number one in incorporating this into the school curriculum.
May I just add something?
Of course.
Our school is taking a lot of initiative to do this every week regularly.
Yes.
However, these issues keep coming up and happening again.
Of course.
So what else can we do?
Yes. So you're right. I mean, I know a lot of students, it's in from one year, out from the other. It's not taken seriously sometimes because it's considered as a non-academic kind of a curriculum part. So one was starting it from grades 1.
Right.
So it's the WHO has something called as a whole school approach, where it's inclusion into the curriculum, not just looking at it as an extra or a co-curricular activity, but actually as important as math or history or geography. So that can be, like, think about it, when we do a math class, do we take it seriously or not?
Yes.
Why? Because it's math, and it's with geography, and it's with history, and it's been done ever since we were in grade 1.
And we have an exam on it.
Exactly. So it should start from grade 1, and it should be given that importance and rigor like any other subject.
Right.
Mental health is considered as an umbrella. It's not just about depression and stress and cyberbullying. It's so much more, right?
Right.
So there is actually lots to cover from grades 1 to grades 12. It's even enhancing your personality, dealing with failure and loss, dealing with stress, dealing with relationship issues.
Right.
And also learning that when you're faced with these problems or you're faced with bullying, how does one deal? How does one cope? What are the steps a student needs to do, etc. So to carry forward from the curriculum incorporation, I think support groups. Right. So like what we are also encouraging is a lot of schools to have like kind of mental health champions. So then you can have a cyberbullying champion in school, like how you allot a monitor, right? Class monitors when you were younger. A few students coming together, the school creating a group or a cohort of these kind of mental health champions or monitors or whatever terminology you want to use, and they have like a pyramidal effect and create that support system and a support group and create a safe, secure space within educational institutes.
Right.
Part of this curriculum, like how I said, bringing the counselor into the classroom, what about the parents? So that's the second part of these curriculums. You're inviting parents into schools. It's compulsory. Like think about it, when your mom or dad are called for open day, they have to come, right?
Right.
So you make it mandate for them to come to hear these things, conversations, call in experts from the outside, student bodies addressing parents.
Because then even the parents can know how significant it is and how they have to teach their children.
Because sometimes parents are also lost as to what strategies to use,
Yeah.
where to draw the line, how to discipline. Because some parents say, don't mind their kids on their phone till 2 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. Some parents are permissive, right? Now, if that child is in your friend group, the first question you're going to ask is, but my friend is allowed to be on the phone for 2.
Right.
Or when you're in just grade 5 or 6, you have so many kids with mobile phones. I'm the only odd one out where my parents have said no mobile phones till grade 9. So I think the parents or the parent body coming together to be on the same page, to have the same...
So that you can't compare with each other.
Exactly, then there's no comparison, because say if there's a right cutoff at time, if no one is engaging on social media or chatting till 2 a.m., then it's a done thing. You're creating the platform of synergy. You're all on the same page with regards to discipline, values, do's, don'ts, and consequences again.
Right.
So that's how you incorporate the 3 stakeholders in a holistic approach. And that's the only way. The minute you generate more awareness and create more awareness and insight, you're actually taking steps towards preventing the snowball effect and something going wrong.
Right. So awareness is key basically.
Key for intervention, and the earlier you intervene, the far better the results and the prognosis. So, and that's with even medical conditions, right? So even picking up warning signs. So many parents, when they come to me professionally, their first question is, oh, we never realized or we didn't know. And things have been happening for months sometimes, So parents also have to be aware, have to be more vigilant. They can't say, oops, we didn't know. So sometimes I joke, there's a concept called helicopter parenting, where the parent micromanages everything. Now that's of course unhealthy, but I tell parents that you're a parent, you're not a friend. We have a whole lifetime to make friends and have friendships with friends, but parents need to be parents.
However, that can create relationships with your parents that can be distressed sort of. So I think a parent should be both your friend and your strict and like be strict. Like they have to have a balance, because if they're constantly micromanaging like your entire life, then you have no space to grow and you have no freedom, and then you feel suffocated.
Perfect. But that's what I'm saying, that it can't only be one or the other. You can't only be an authoritative parent, and neither can you be only your friend, which is the permissive parenting style.
Yeah, so there needs to be like you need to be disciplined. Like I think also the child needs to be disciplined, and then the parents can act a certain way towards you. So if they trust you, and if you're disciplined about like your school or whatever is important, your priorities, then I think like trust will build over time, and then you can come together and have a strong relationship with your parents.
So I hope parents are listening, but that is the key. Parents have to have a balanced approach.
Thank you so much for elaborating on social media and the issues and the ways that we can help others. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I have learned so much from this.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us today on my show. I hope you have learned a lot and understood a lot from Dr. Zirak Marker's insightful details on social media.